Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter weekend. Wife and I drove over to Butte yesterday to meet some family and had a really nice dinner and a nice time. Nice drive over, nice drive back. It was good weather here in Montana. So we enjoyed our Easter. Hope you did too. Hope you also enjoyed the Easter edition of the newsletter that went out yesterday. If you're not getting that newsletter, get on it at enjoylifesafely.com. You're missing some good stuff every week. I send it to you free, information to stay safe, defend yourself if you have to, enjoy life and be exceptional. It's all in there. Get that at enjoylifesafely.com. Now, I have been a fan of Jim Rohn's teachings for years and years. I've listened to many of his audio programs. I've read books. I've watched DVDs. I review them frequently. I really like Jim Rohn. And one of the stories he used to tell was a day that turned his life around when a Girl Scout came up to him to sell a box of cookies for $2. And he didn't have $2 in his pocket. And he said he had to lie to that Girl Scout. He told her he already bought some. And she thanked him for buying and went on her way. And he felt terrible that he lied to a Girl Scout over $2. And he changed his life around and, he became a millionaire and taught many other people. Now, I remembered that story the other day because I happened to go up and there was some Girl Scouts selling cookies. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm a sucker for kids selling stuff. A kid comes to my door, a kid is selling stuff, I buy. Because I remember selling stuff when I was a kid. I remember taking my daughter out and having her sell things. And I didn't go out and sell stuff for my daughter. I went out with her and she had to do the selling. So a kid selling, I'm a sucker, I'm going to buy. That's the way I am. But when I saw these Girl Scouts selling cookies, I sort of thought of that Jim Rohn story. Now, my wife had already purchased some boxes of cookies from a Girl Scout at her school. She works at the school as a teacher. So she had already bought some boxes. We finished them, so we didn't have any left in the house. But when I was looking at the table, I said, my wife already bought some from a girl at school. And I could see the girl thinking, oh, he's not going to buy, his wife bought. They'd heard that before. But then I said, but you can always have another box or two, right? And she sort of smiled. And I said, my wife didn't buy this kind, and I want to try this one, because I got the big selection and they got new ones and stuff. So I bought Girl Scout cookies, brought them home, and we enjoyed them. They were new flavors. They were different from the ones the wife bought. But part of that is just to think about, how the Jim Rohn story influenced, as well as me selling as a kid. But also, another thing that Jim Rohn used to teach is always have cash in your pocket. Now, if you know me, I use credit cards for everything. If I'm at a supermarket and it's 99 cents, I pay for it with a credit card because I collect the miles and the cash back depending on which card I'm using. So I use credit cards for absolutely everything that I can because I want the miles, I want the cash back, and I pay those credit cards off every month in full. I'm not going to get sucked into paying that ridiculous credit card interest. However, I always have cash on me. And that was a lesson from Jim Rohn too, because I'm not going to get stuck with the Girl Scout and not be able to pull out some cash and buy some cookies. When I'm driving down the street, and I pass the lemonade stands in the summer, I pull over. And I always have a whole bunch of quarters in my car, if not dollars in the wallet, and I can buy lemonades, whatever they're selling on these side stands. When I'm traveling, I always got $5 bills to help pay the tips for the bellman and whoever that are dealing with my luggage. And that was something that Jim Rohn used to teach too. Always have a pocket full of cash. And he said it also just makes you feel better, knowing you have the cash available if you need it. Now, don't flaunt the cash. Don't flash it and this and that and advertise it for a crime. I teach how to be safe. And when you're traveling, sometimes you have that cash hidden away, but it's always good to have that cash for those kind of situations. So that was just sort of interesting how those things of Jim Rohn came back to me when a real life situation. And that's what is good about reading, listening, learning, then applying to make our lives better. And I hope some of the things I share on Coffee with Alain, you apply to make your life better. That's what I wanted to share this morning. Going to say hello to a couple people. Want to say good morning to Thad. Thad was here and said good morning. Thank you, Thad. Appreciate you being here. Dixon said, so you'll wear bunny ears, but not mouse ears, eh? Dixon saw the Easter picture I posted where my daughter put the bunny ears on me that morning on Easter years ago. A picture of me and my daughter when she was little wearing the bunny ears. And it's not that I never have worn mouse ears. I'm just not as big a fan of the mouse ears like my wife and daughter with all the different ones that they wear at the Disney places now. Dixon also said, I'll be sure to have my child android robot set up a lemonade stand in your vicinity. I would stop. Again, I stop at the lemonade stands when I'm driving around town. And, kid comes to the door, they're going to make a sale. These kids were over at the mall. They had a table set up at the mall over there. And I happened to be over there and walk by the table. And yeah, I'm going to stop and buy some cookies from them. So that is here. A little cash is also useful when you need to tip when you aren't making a purchase. Yeah, I mean, it is just good to have some cash on you for different reasons. And so Jim Rohn, like I said, he taught that years ago, and I've always been an advocate of, I try to have cash on me. And another thing about tipping that, I tried to learn and from Jim Rohn is he used to always say, if you're thinking of tipping this amount or this amount, always tip the larger amount. Don't be a cheap. And he lived years and years ago. So, I mean, he's talking a quarter versus 50 cents tip for a shoe shine. And he's like, don't be a quarter, be a 50 cent. Inflation now would be dollars. But the core principle, he always taught that, are you going to tip this or this? Always tip the higher amount. You'll feel better. And later you'll won't be going, I should have tipped that person more. And you'll have that regret. If you always tip the higher amount, you're not going to have that regret later. And so I've always tried to go by that as well and try to, incorporate some of those lessons and the wisdom that he taught and share that as well. So that's what I wanted to share, some stuff by Jim Rohn and how I actually applied it the other day. And it made, the real life situation made me think of those lessons, and maybe it'll help you think about some things too. I have Make Every Day Amazing mug this morning. So go out and make it an amazing Monday, and I'll be back to see you tomorrow.